Welcome Trinidad and Tobago to our News 4 report, a product of the Government Information Services Limited and the Ministry of Communications. I'm Nicola Barito. Let's take a look at the headlines. Much-needed roadworks commences in Camuto, Manzanillo. School security in the nation's schools will be further strengthened this upcoming term. And the ANR Robinson International Airport to get an upgrade. Thank you for joining us. The Ministry of Works and Infrastructure is using all its resources to complete much-needed works across the country. The latest area to receive the attention of the ministry is Camuto, Manzanillo.
Roadworks have begun in the Camuto Manzanillo constituency. On Sunday, Minister of Works and Infrastructure, the Honorable Dr. Suraj Rachan Rambachan, launched the works and gave an overview of what was expected to take place in the coming days. He explained that since the current administration took office in 2010, $43.8 million has been invested into roadworks in the area. $37.5 million covered former roadworks, including the cost for 6,000 meters of drains, and $21 million, which went toward treating with the widespread issue of landslips in the area. The Honourable Minister stated that $6.3 million was allocated to the most recent roadworks and that this was taking place simultaneously with other works throughout the entire country.
This project is one of 37 projects that I would have launched in the last 2 weeks and up to next week. A total value of $100 million. That is money that you say you find at the end of the financial year and you begin to do useful work with it. And what I've been doing, I've been going into all my little accounts at the ministry and all my little accounts at local government and finding the balances that will go back normally into the treasury and pulling it out very quickly and doing useful work in the communities. I'm very thankful that we have, though, contractors in this country who can mobilize very quickly and who can do this work very quickly.
The Member of Parliament for the area praised Minister Rambachan for responding to the call of the residents for urgent attention to be given to the road, which had been in a deplorable state. He even called for other deplorable roads to be remedied within his constituency.
Thanks again for your patience. I mean, I could stay here and tell you what needs to be done, but the minister is here. He has his list. I want him also to consider continuing the work probably before the end of the year because he knows the state of the roads. Also, I want him to look at Kaiwal Road, St. Isidore Road and Marquess. And these are some of the key areas that needs some close attention.
The Honourable Minister had this response for the Member of Parliament and residents.
I assure you that not only are we going to try and finish the segment up to the Corial Cemetery, that's where we're trying to reach, but definitely in the new fiscal year, we are going to find some money to continue the work. In fact, Colin will tell you that this work wasn't supposed to be started now. It was to be still started in the new fiscal year, but again, these are savings that we are pulling together and trying to utilize it as much as possible in these jobs.
The residents expressed their appreciation and sense of relief with the start of the roadworks, confident that it would finish in time and within budget to the highest quality. Nikolai Edwards, News 4.
In other news, school security in the nation's schools will be further strengthened with the addition and deployment of a new batch of 50 trained safety officers and 2 district coordinators into the education system. So says the Minister of Education, Dr. the Honorable Tim Gopi Singh.
8 vacancies now existing, which we will fill shortly. And so therefore we hope to be able to fulfill the full complement of at least 2 school safety officers. I believe there are only 8 out of the 91 schools which have only 1, and 83 have 2 school safety officers.
Minister of Education Dr. Tim Gopi Singh says he feels comfortable that they are now part of the school-based management team. The newly appointed school safety officers underwent training in firefighting, risk assessment CPR, first aid, intervention strategy, psychology preparation, crisis management and self-defense.
Utilizing your skills and knowledge to assist the school principals and the entire school-based management team in the work that they do on a day-to-day basis at the schools.
He adds their role is to complement the work of the principals and the school-based management team that will provide support to principals and other stakeholders in education to the establishment of a safe, tranquil, and disciplined school environment, and by extension, the community.
Emphasis is focused on the implementation of policies outlined in the school security plan. So all your schools must have a school security plan, such as the engagement of initiatives in matters relating to health, accidents, emergencies, allergies, fainting spells by students, teachers, safety and security of all the students and the teachers and all within the school, safety and security of all in the school.
The minister delivered on his promise to create a safer school environment which is conducive to student learning and development by the appointment of these school safety officers. Minister Gopi Singh underscores that school safety is of paramount importance to the ministry.
Regular patrols in the school compound. So your work is on the ground, not in the offices, meeting the students, looking at situations, and determining what moves you have to make in terms of dealing with problems that may occur.
The initiative continues as the government works to deliver the foundation for an intelligent nation and a creative economy. Joseph Lopez, News 4.
When we come back, the ANR Robinson International Airport to get an upgrade. Stay with us. As the anticipation builds for the presentation of the 2013-2014 fiscal package by the Honorable Larry Hawai, Minister of Finance and the Economy, we will analyze and review the promises and commitments made by the government in the 2012-2013 fiscal package. We begin today with a look at the commitment given by the government to developing national sports.
Prior to the 2012-2013 budget presentation, Trinidad and Tobago achieved never-before-seen success at the largest sporting stage possible, the Olympics. Scenes of Keyshawn Walcott standing atop the medal platform with his hand on his heart while the national flag of Trinidad and Tobago rose to the top of the flagpole at London's Olympic Stadium and the national anthem blaring over the loudspeaker will never be forgotten. It had been 36 years since Trinidad and Tobago tasted gold at the Olympics, and the heavy focus placed on sport in the government's manifesto seemed to have paid immeasurable dividends. Minister Hawai recognized this and as such reiterated the government's commitment to the development of sport, both in the area of talent and infrastructure. Minister Hawai, in collaboration with the Minister of Sport, the Honorable Anil Roberts, outlined 3 projects which are intended to target professional sportsmen and women and enhance the infrastructure available to aid in their development.
The Dwight York Stadium in Tobago is being upgraded with external lighting, drainage, electrical installation, and athletic track upgrade. Secondly, the National Aquatic Center, the National Tennis Center, and the National Velodrome will be constructed in readiness for international competition and built according to international specifications to attract world-class athletes to Trinidad and Tobago, to provide the required exposure to our athletes and to provide the opportunity for sport tourism. Thirdly, 3 multi-purpose sport facilities are also being constructed. During the course of this fiscal year, design work and financing would be finalized.
While attention was paid to professional sportsmen and women, the average citizen interested in recreational sport and fitness was not forgotten. The government's 2010 manifesto spoke to the implementation of policies to develop both recreational and competitive dimensions of sport for all levels of individual ability. It also promised to create an environment in which citizens of all ages are encouraged to participate in sport, whether recreational or competitive. It is in this vein the Finance Minister announced plans to upgrade and construct recreation grounds and play parks throughout the country for citizens to engage in recreational sport and keep fit activities.
64 recreation grounds are being upgraded, which would bring total upgraded grounds to 96, 32 having been upgraded in 2011. 41 additional play parks are being upgraded. And finally, the indoor facilities are also being upgraded, in particular to provide accommodation for both the abled and differently abled to engage in physical recreation and sporting facilities.
The government has since stayed true to this promise, with the Ministry of Sport embarking on a whirlwind of recreation ground upgrades, the most recently being the recreation ground at Coconut Drive in Mova. Speaking at a recent recreation ground opening, Minister Roberts detailed the works for 2013, explaining despite his limited budget, more than 20 grounds have already been fully completed, with many more due to be completed in the coming weeks. Trinidad and Tobago has a rich sporting history, with our citizens making their mark on the world stage. This stretches as far back as Rodney Wilkes, who medaled for Trinidad and Tobago in both the 1948 and 1952 Olympics. The government's continued commitment to investment in sport has more recently seen success in sports such as track and field, swimming, hockey, and cricket. And as the day for the reading of the 2013-2014 fiscal package approaches, citizens wait with bated breath to see if the recent successes have persuaded the government to place even more state resources into sport, to allow citizens to feel the same sense of national pride and patriotism experienced on that windy London night when our national flag flew at London's Olympic Stadium and our national anthem blared through the loudspeakers, announcing Trinidad and Tobago's return to the top. Gregory McBurney, News 4 Sports.
In other news, Minister of Tobago Development Dr. Delmon Baker and his team met with the Minister of Infrastructure, the Honorable Chandra Sharma, and members of his ministry, along with members of the Trinidad and Tobago Civil Aviation Authority, the Airports Authority of Trinidad and Tobago, and NIPDEC at the Rovenels Resort. The team met to discuss the upgrading of the ANR Robinson International Airport, the planned construction of a new Met station, and a new control tower, and that should be Minister of Transport.
Minister of Tobago Development, the Honorable Dr. Delmon Baker, says work on the airport is scheduled to begin in the next 2 months.
I am pleased today to hear from the Airports Authority through its line minister that the refurbishment works are on course, are on schedule, and are carried to start sometime around October this year.
But Minister of Transport Chandra Sharma says the renovation of the airport should not be jumbled with the construction of a new wing. Included in the upgrade works at the airport are plans for better security and better lighting, according to Minister Sharma.
The lighting at the airport, again, is under Civil Aviation International best practices they determine, including the security lighting in and around the airport. So we subscribe to all that is required in terms of international best practice. We are guided by international institutions that also helps to govern.
The minister is seeking contractors to do the airport works, which also includes the construction of a new roof, as the current one has numerous leakages, and the expansion of the waiting area to accommodate more passengers.
The tenders have gone out. We're expecting responses by the end of this month, and an award give and take within 6 weeks from now.
Minister Baker says the Transport Minister has been seriously negotiating with the relevant stakeholders, and plans have been put in place for the works to commence.
And all of Tobago can breathe a sigh of relief that the seriousness with which we engaged the agencies and the ministry in the first instance to get this process moving is the seriousness with which they have taken their tasks and are now prepared to execute on behalf of all of the people of Trinidad and Tobago.
Meantime, Minister Baker indicated that land is being sourced for the new airport control tower. $45 million will be spent on the airport, $64 million on the new Met station, and $38 million on the new control tower. Reporting from Tobago, Patricia Nicholson, News 4.
When we come back, our sport report. Stay with us. The Coconut Drive Recreation Ground has been graced with the sight of many top footballers, including the likes of Russell Latapy, Marvin Foston, and the Danoon brothers. Those past players, as well as the up-and-coming, were elated on Sunday as a refurbished facility was opened following works by the East Port of Spain Development Company. Wayne Cunningham was there and has more in this report.
It was indeed a day to celebrate for the residents of Coconut Drive in Morvant, and by extension, East Port of Spain, with a commemoration of the completion of upgrade works to the Coconut Drive Recreation Ground Pavilion. The Honorable Purindranat Tiwari, Minister of Planning and Sustainable Development, was in attendance, and he was inspired by the day's proceedings. Inspiration which he passed on to the youths present.
You have various types of talent in the society, but you also have sporting talent, and that is a genuine talent. It is a human talent. It takes as much imagination to win a 100-meter race or a 400-meter relay at the level of the Olympics as it does to win a Nobel Prize. I want to tell you that. And it is just different arenas. It is not just the physical, the raw physical talent that is involved in winning that relay or winning that 100-meter race or playing that great game of football. It is the human imagination at work.
Former national footballer Nevik Danoon is one of the key initiators of the project, and he invited all to come to Morvant to see the positive side, which easily outweighs the negative.
Being in Morvant and being around a lot of negative stigmatization by many, a politician, by many, a stranger. Being in geographics of this area, East Port of Spain, we are again stigmatized. However, can anything come out of Nazareth? Come and see. We are trying to be the light in the darkness and has been, for the past 34 years, we have produced and continue to produce national athletes, international athletes. Dennis Lawrence has been from this community. Remember Malik, the days of Dwarka and Stokely Mason and Brent Sancho, and the list goes on and on and on.
The Morvant Elements head coach called on corporate entities in the community to partner with the government in development projects which will benefit the youth.
Economic depressions, of course, does to be in a position where we would not like to be. However, with sport being the vehicle it is, I'm employing the minister and the powers that be to invest into the youth for the future. Without that investment, things like equipment, well, we have a modern facility here now. Hope we can take it to the next level to encourage participation, to encourage a positive mental attitude for the players and the participants involved to keep that goal direction, to raise the self-esteem and the self-image. Many of us, because we are stigmatized, we start to believe in what people say about us. Let us please, where there's rain, look for the rainbow. And when we get lemon, let us make lemonade.
The man they call Sarge then expressed the sentiments of the community.
To the powers that be that make this facility possible, I thank you, I thank you, I thank you.
Wayne Cunningham, News 4 Sports.
News 4 continues after the break. Utilizing the effectiveness of the United Nations programs. This was the focus of the United Nations Development Assistance Framework Workshop. State agencies and stakeholders were invited to discuss their involvement in sustainable development policymaking through using UN programs to its full potential.
Did you know the United Nations has over 11 of its agencies lending support to Trinidad and Tobago? These agencies are said to be working hand in hand with the Planning and Development Ministry in creating legislative framework, policies and providing financial aid through funding for some of this country's major development projects. In hosting its sensitization and comparative workshop, the United Nations Development Assistance Framework, UNDAF, brought together stakeholders in health, local government, NGOs and state agencies for collective analysis on the UN's national effectiveness. Recently appointed UN Resident Coordinator Richard Blewett says there was strength in understanding how stakeholders and the UN agencies can work together for development of TNT.
There's a large number of UN agencies that potentially can be brought to bear to support Trinidad and Tobago with its development challenges. And the UNDAF is the opportunity to encourage a whole range of UN agencies, both present in the country but others that are interested, to start to become engaged and become interested in the development issues here so that they can play a constructive role. Enhancing the coherence of the UN in improving efficiency and effectiveness of its development assistance in the country. You know, each UN agency does many good things, but we sometimes collaborate together as well, quite effectively. How better can we collaborate together to be more effective and have a bigger impact in the country? For me, the UNDAF, though, the heart of it is that we have to synchronize with the reality of the political economy of the country. Our challenge is to make sure the UN's inputs fit in relationship to the opportunities and challenges available to us to make a difference for the lives of people on the ground in the country, and how to make that synchronization better than we've had in the past.
The United Nations describes sustainable development as an integrated approach identified in 3 pillars under which Trinidad and Tobago subscribes to. 1. Economic development, 2. Social development, and 3. Environmental protection. Planning and Development Minister Dr. Bo Tiwari says all of these work together for total development of the nation and is represented in its governance.
Social development cannot be isolated from economic development. And economic development is part of social development and vice versa. And what we need is to have a more integrated approach between the People and Social Development Ministries and the 4 economic ministries. The 4 economic ministries work very closely together: Finance, Trade, Investment, Energy, Ministry of Planning. We work, we integrate our work, we do whatever is required, we talk to each other, etc. Social development operates as if it is on its own mission. And unless you have that collaborative link and that developmental agenda that is shared, we are not going to have the accumulation of social capital with economic benefits to the people who are served by the social capital and by the social welfare, what is essentially social welfare agenda.
The United Nations Development Action Framework, UNDAF, is a program document between a government and the United Nations country team that describes the collective actions and strategies of the United Nations to the achievement of national development. The UNDAF includes outcomes, activities, and UN agency responsibilities that are agreed by government. It also shows where the United Nations can contribute most effectively to the achievement of national development priorities. Kimberly Ramkalawan, News 4.
Well, that's how we wrap up this edition of our News 4 Report, a product of the Government Information Services Limited and the Ministry of Communications. I'm Nicola Barito. Thank you for joining us.